Nobody joining us today?
Depending on what's on the agenda. Sometimes that board will just fill up.
Really?
What's interesting is how many people go back and watch, you know, because you can see on YouTube how many people have watched. And again, depending on the agenda, a lot of
Dozens
people.
views, hundreds of views.
You know, I mean, I'm trying to, the high, I think, is pretty high. It's like, I don't know, 60s.
Really?
Yeah. So, yep.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Hochler,
Oh, here.
Packard. Here. Smith, here. Manning,
Here.
Hammond.
Here. Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none, approve agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
yes,
Hochler,
Yes, motion approved. Approved minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
yes,
Hochler.
Yes, motion approved. Visitors to be heard.
yeah, I'd like to be on visitors as Rod.
Okay. We'll
Just
start with
just an update on the trees that, on the Yankton Clay ditch over there by Cairns. Dennis sprayed the ones he could get to the west that were cut earlier. And he also sprayed the Prairie Center ditch. So just thought I'd give you that update anyway.
We got started on road ditches then too, Rod?
Yep, they've been doing them, yes, sir.
Okay, good.
That's all I had.
Thank you.
I talked to Tyler in code about software, and they're not sure that they can help because they don't know how the information will be able to get to T-Tech. So they're supposed to get me some quotes and stuff later
Okay.
this week. So I just wanted you to know where we were at.
Okay, and it'll be on the agenda for the last meeting of the month.
They would love to come and show you their program, but so,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks. Any other visitors to be heard? Hearing none. Matt? So that property, you were gonna kind of go through what we can and can't do, or?
Yes.
And if you just want to, yeah, and the button needs to be up.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm not sure the address. Do you remember the address on that?
I don't.
I didn't even write it down. It's my fault. So anyway, there's a property down in Burbank that I've had a couple of complaints on that's been neglected, and it's overgrown with trees and garbage and trash. And they want it, the complaints were they want it cleaned up. It's not safe. I'm not sure of the status of the property owners on the property. I drove down and took a look at it about a month ago. It's pretty dilapidated. The roof's fallen in, it's overgrown, windows are broken out. So there's some pretty significant safety hazards there. So Travis had called me last week to come in and meet with you guys. And we had this issue once before in Burbank with a house that had burned down. And I know the last meeting we had on that, you guys were working on an ordinance allowing me to take care of that kind of stuff. Did that ever go through? I have a copy of it. I never got a final
I don't think it ever got finalized. Not that I remember.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think-
Okay.
Alexis is shaking her head no.
So that would, we would have to adopt that, or you guys would have to adopt that at some point. But I did find something in the state laws, in the codified laws, that gives the township of any unincorporated town, the township board, the ability to abate any nuisance. So it could be taken to the Fairview Township Board, and they would be allowed to abate that nuisance, which is that property. That would be probably more in Alexis's realm of.
Now, is that something that they would have to incur the expense of when you say abated?
I would assume so. Alexis could probably answer that a little better.
So that's, I think that's one of the options there is to abate a nuisance, and the last time when this came up, I had looked into that as far as what your guys' abilities are. And I think we did start down that path. That was my recollection, is we started down this path of an ordinance in that regard, and we just never finished that out. Got caught up with other things and we didn't finish that out. There are ways for us, so it's good to know in regard to the township, because if it's, I hadn't contemplated that. And if it's within the township, they can go that route too. My recollection is if we were to do it, and now I need to look at that in conjunction of, can we, if it's, is it more the township's responsibility to do that first versus us swooping in and taking care of that? We're going to get into issues of notice, making sure the property owner is on notice of those things and giving them an opportunity to remedy that or take care of that themselves. Because if we do it and it costs us money, then we want to assess that back to them with their taxes, their property taxes. And so sometimes they'd rather just take care of that first. The other aspect of that is certainly we don't want to go on to someone's property and then get accused later of damaging their property. So I think that's the other component, just from a practical sense of giving them notice to remedy that themselves. I couldn't recall, was this owned by the bank or a
Yeah.
trust? Okay.
No, it didn't sound like it was,
Pays the tax.
the bank pays the taxes, but that doesn't necessarily
Right.
mean that, because if you've got a mortgage, the bank pays the taxes.
Yeah,
So
'cause the
we
owner's
don't even
listed-
know.
Yeah,
Owner's listed with the
Mhm.
bank as the mortgage.
That's true.
Holder.
So yeah, so in 21-10-6 is abatement of a nuisance notice required taxing of cost of abatement. A public nuisance may be abated without civil action by any public body or officer. So I mean, the township certainly could do that as well, as authorized by law. Any municipality, county, or township may defray the cost of abating a public nuisance by taxing the cost thereof by special assessment against the real property on which the nuisance occurred. If the nuisance is abated, is a unsafe or dilapidated building, junk, trash, debris, or similar nuisance arising out of condition of the property, we may commence a civil action against the owner of your property for the cost of abatement in lieu of taxing the cost. Well, of course, I would rather not initiate a lawsuit. We don't have to. If we can just go that route. Any private person may also abate a public nuisance, which is especially injurious to such persons. So I don't know who you guys have heard from. Is it neighboring property owners or?
I think so. I don't know where Mike lives. Is he next door?
Across the street, I think.
Okay.
So I guess at this juncture, and then that was my other recollection, is that there was this specific statute dealing with a fire that was a nuisance and the fire marshal advising as such, but I didn't know, but I think it was a state fire marshal, and I don't remember all the specifics on that as to what route we would want to go. And I wondered if that was how it was fresh enough off the fire on the last one. I don't know what the state of the property is right now. I don't know, like, is the nuisance more as a result of the fire? Is it more of just not taking care of it?
Was it?
All of the
There
above.
was no fire. There was no fire. It just, the property has been abandoned and I'm not sure how long it's been abandoned for. But like I said, it's all overgrown, windows are broke out, roofs
Yeah.
caving in.
So I think-
Neighbors are more concerned about safety issues.
Yeah.
Matt, would this one be a candidate for a training burn or anything?
It would, but our insurance company does not like us doing that anymore.
Okay,
We would certainly go train in it, but we
yes,
would not burn it down.
yeah.
Um, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I mean, you guys could certainly hire somebody to go burn it down if you want it. As long as you don't try to collect any insurance money on it. But
I think the easiest step, we need to get that ordinance passed.
yeah, I just have a draft of it here. I found it in some old paperwork from previous, when we had the house fire down there.
What is that dated?
It's not,
Okay.
it doesn't even have an ordinance number.
I think one of the reasons we had talked about doing this too was granting authority for someone to define that this specifically is a nuisance. Because that's where I think long-term, we're gonna get into any rub on this with the property owner is if we're disputing what is the nuisance, is it a nuisance? Is it actually a nuisance? And really making sure from our standpoint, I mean, I think before we go tearing anything down, I would want somebody to photograph it, document those things, put us in a good position of, this is clearly a nuisance for anyone who hasn't seen it with their own eyes.
But with that ordinance, that would allow Matt to do that.
Basically, yes.
And he wouldn't just be an ordinary citizen. With his title and training. I mean, that's our, but I think that'd be the easiest way, because I think if we went to the township and say, you need to do this, they're not gonna tear it down because they're not gonna spend the money.
Well-
Wondering when they're gonna get reimbursed.
My only other concern is if this didn't involve a fire, that was my other recollection is that, so it's ordinance adopting and enacting provisions of 2018 fire code and appointing county fire marshal. So I don't know if you think that would that cover something like this? That would be my only concern is I think we were specifically addressing fire code concerns and those types of things and making sure we had a county fire marshal.
But he's able to go in and just do condemned buildings also.
Yeah, in the city, in my city role or my city job, I'm allowed to go into a building and deem it unsafe. And I can slap a sticker on it, shut it down. Typically we give them 3 days, 7 days to rectify the issue. Before we do that, I mean, that's not something I look forward to doing, is going in and shutting somebody down for something. I mean, unless it's blatantly life safety issue that's immediate, then it has to be shut down now. This property, I agree with the complaints on it. Something needs to be done with it. We would obviously, like in the city, we give them, like I said, we give them time. We'll send them a letter saying, hey, you have 90 days or 180 days to take care of this. If it's not taken care of, then the county will take care of it for you. Then you'll be assessed on your taxes or however you guys deem appropriate to do that. I mean, that's basically the process the city follows.
Yeah, but that, you use the building codes to allow you to determine,
I can use the fire code as well.
you can use the fire code.
Yep.
So we can adopt the fire code.
Yeah, just portions of it that give me, or that allow this position, my position, the authority to go in and make those decisions. You don't have to adopt the fire code as a whole, you can adopt just sections of it. I think that's what that has in it.
It does have it in it?
Yeah, it's got like right of entry, unsafe buildings, fire investigations,
Okay.
stuff like that.
So the draft already actually has the cut down version.
Yeah,
of the original.
yeah.
was thinking
And
we
I
had done
remember working with Alexis on this after our meetings and she had told me she just got super busy and it kind of got put on the back burner.
Well, I think it went from, I think Cindy retired, Drew took over. Cause I bet Drew has never, probably ever seen it.
He's never
No.
seen that.
So if we can get him a copy of that.
Yeah.
It'll be, since you have a copy, it'll be quicker to give him that copy or get a copy of that and have him find one.
Yeah.
And that would address nuisances where there even hasn't been a fire, unless it's an all concrete building or something. There's, when a building goes into such disrepair that it's like something like that, there's always fire safety issues there.
Mhm.
Piles of crud in the corner with spontaneous combustion, all that good stuff
Mhm.
would allow you to come in and
Yeah,
do that. There doesn't have to be a fire
Right.
having occurred
yes,
for you to kick in to do
Yep.
the job.
yeah. If it were a building that were on a 3 acre parcel that's an old rundown farm place that there's not a neighbor for a mile, I wouldn't be too concerned with it, but this is smack dab in the middle of Burbank.
Yeah,
And receiving complaints on it.
yeah,
I think it's my duty to follow up on it.
Yeah,
definitely.
I worry about kids too. I mean, I had a brother who charged kids money for giving tours of an old abandoned house in our neighborhood when I was a kid. And yeah, I really-
First thing you know, somebody's unexpectedly in the basement.
Yes.
yeah.
New access door.
Yes.
So how long of time, like in the city, when you have a situation like this, where they give them a notice and then you get like 30 days to clean it up, or
Yeah, it depends on the severity of the issue, I guess.
so you can make it any number you want?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You know, this property first, I mean, I would try to contact the property owner. We'll have to go to the bank, see what's going on there. Try to track down the property owners. I have no idea who they are, where they're even at.
Well, we have address
Okay.
through assessors, through the
Okay.
assessor's office.
Yeah, and I would talk to them first initially, just to kind of get a feel of what's going on with the property. And then from there, we would obviously send the notice letter, the abatement letter, and then the date the abatement letter expires, and that's when we start the process of basically abating the nuisance.
So is it possible that by the end of this next meeting that we could possibly get this ordinance in so that we could get moving on it?
No, because it's got to go through the planning and zoning first.
Okay,
And Drew's gonna be down here pretty quick.
I mean,
Well,
I just
see
like
if
to
we
kind
can
of get
make
it
it to
moving
the-
along.
Quickest we can maybe do it is put it on the end of the month
Okay, that's what, yeah, that's what.
for the planning and zoning.
Oh, okay,
And then we'll have to see.
We could
I don't know.
possibly be done by the end of November, though.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the weather, it'd be tough it'd be spring before we would be able to do anything with it.
right,
Right.
that's what I was hoping to
Yeah,
get back.
and that's the other, you know, coming up on winter here, I would give them the winter months in the
Right.
spring to do something with it.
Okay,
I think we had the assessor's statement and it had this location, this address as the owner's address.
Mhm.
So we may not have a owner's address
It did.
in the assessor's office.
Well, we'll figure,
Sure hope they're
we'll
not.
try
Well,
to
the-
figure out who the bank, the credit union is.
Yeah, surely the bank, yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
bank's
bank will
sending a
have
bill
it.
somewhere.
Let's hope the bank owns it.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
They're paying the mortgage. I'm
I know.
almost wondering,
That's what I'm
or
thinking.
not the mortgage, but the taxes.
Yeah,
yeah.
but.
We'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Well, I will, I'm gonna hold off on doing anything until I hear from either Alexis or you guys, on what you guys are gonna, what the next move is, I guess.
Well, that's the next move. And if Drew changes anything in there, you'll get a copy to review.
Yeah, I can leave that paperwork with Alexis.
I mean, we might want to just reach out to I can make a copy of that too. We might want to just reach out to the township and see if somebody, I mean, really, I think so often in some of these situations, if somebody just initiates a letter notifying the bank of this is a concern, if they don't even know about it, I mean, maybe something will get done. But I would agree that regardless, we should begin this process again because it did get put on the back burner. So go from there.
Sounds good. Anything else from Matt?
No, thanks, Matt.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So who's going to take the lead on notice?
Notice on, well, we've got to pass this first.
I mean, I'm wondering if somebody wants to reach out to the township and ask them if they'll do this, because I think this could potentially, I mean, it says any public body. So if it's within their township, they certainly would, and certainly via this statute would have the authority to abate a nuisance in their corporate limits as well. So, I mean, we could, even without our ordinance, go about that. It's just go about the process, you guys sending notice, those types of things. I could start a civil action, but it's just a matter of making sure our ducks in a row, long-term,
Gotta
No,
leave that
leave-
open.
Yeah,
Right.
leave it open.
if we get challenged on that in the future. So I don't know, I don't know who the head of the township board is, or if someone wants.
Travis might know somebody.
They may, and they may appreciate some guidance on how the letter ought to be worded. I don't know if there's,
Well, the only thing is that the township's not gonna spend the money to tear it down.
sure, that's right.
So is it just a?
Formality.
Yeah.
Well, but
I know there have been.
But they
some in the
also may
city.
know who owns the property. I mean, that's, that's one of those, people know. And, we may get some clues from them.
One of the things they'll want to consider, and one of the things that now if we have an expert to testify to those things, it's certainly a different situation, but identifying that this is a public nuisance, not just a private nuisance.
Mhm.
Because that's, and statute defines a public nuisance as one that affects at the same time, an entire community or neighborhood, or any considerable number of persons, although the extent of the annoyance or damage inflicted upon the individuals may be unequal. So it doesn't have to be, I mean, I think there's some room there for identifying what a public nuisance is. But I'm sure any concerns or hesitations we have, they may have as well.
But Matt, would it be possible if we got a hold of somebody with the township? Because this might get it done quicker for right now until we get this done. Would you be willing to help somebody there write a letter to the party that own it or the bank or whatever?
Absolutely.
Okay,
The city, we use between code enforcement, fire department, building department, we use the same form letter.
okay,
Basically a notice of violation letter that, hey, you're violating this ordinance. And we'd have to include that. The law that the state has that allows the township to abate that a nuisance.
Mhm.
I guess if
That's-
the wheel's already been invented, I hate to.
Yeah, that's what I was driving at, was look for help.
Yeah,
little help
absolutely.
In
Yeah.
that way.
My only question though is if the township does the abatement and they won't tear it down, can the county still come in, tear it down and assess that since we didn't do the abatement?
Let me look into that.
Because ultimately, if this is what's supposed to happen, it needs to be torn down. I mean, if that's what it's assessed, I mean, if you go in and deem it, it needs to be knocked down.
Mhm.
Yeah, and abating a nuisance doesn't necessarily mean it has to be tore down. It can be cleaned up. Some windows put in, a new roof put on it. It's just the extent of the damage. I didn't physically go inside the house. I didn't even get out of the truck. I just drove around the block a couple times and looked at it.
But if the roof has been falling in. with the
Yeah,
amount
it's
of-
probably, the inside's probably.
With the amount of rain we had the previous
Yeah,
couple of years.
Probably no good. Probably some
Whatever.
critters living in there.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
you,
oh, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
and sometimes a letter is enough. I mean, it could be, and we should still fix the ordinance in the long term, and we should make our definitions of what a nuisance is and so on to make it easier for you. But it seems to me that if we can get a notice out.
Sure, that's
Um,
exactly what Lexi brought up
Yep,
10 minutes ago.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and in the city, when we send a letter out and we get no response and we start the abatement process, we typically have to go back and budget money for that tear down. I don't know if the county employees would physically be tearing it down if you hire a contractor to do that.
That'd be a question for Rod.
Okay, that's
We'd have to
another,
Figure it out.
yeah, that's another thing you might want to consider is during this abatement process, if the county has the funds to pay a contractor to abate this property.
Does the city have the city employees tear it down or do they hire somebody?
Depends on the project.
Okay.
I know the city has torn some down themselves and they've also hired contractors, like for junk and debris around town, they have a contractor that goes around and picks it up, sends the city a bill, and the city bills the property owner, doesn't get paid, then gets assessed and all that fun stuff.
Rhonda just brought in contact information for some of the township people, if anyone wants to volunteer.
Microphone.
Rhonda just brought in, on an unrelated matter, some contact information for the township board. So if anybody wants to contact them, we've got a few phone numbers and folks' names, if anyone wants to volunteer for that.
And
Oh,
just
and
on a
the-
side note too, the township officers' contact information is on our website too. So that gets updated each year after their annual meeting.
I guess my question is, Are you guys gonna contact them or you want me to contact?
The township? I'll
Yeah.
contact them.
All right, perfect.
I know somebody on there.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Anything else from Matt? Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Drew, you're up to date with what we.
Yeah, I was listening on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're not excluded from the township?
No, because they're a rural residential now. They're not a incorporated town. Were you here when we did that?
Yeah.
That draft?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I
You
thought.
said, I never heard about it.
Now you know.
That's what I
That's
figured.
right.
So this is supposed to go into the zoning ordinance?
Yeah, it will.
Because I don't, as this is written, it doesn't go into the zoning. ordinance.
I think we had contemplated it just as a separate ordinance for the county, but I don't know.
They are the county ordinance. Yeah, okay, yeah.
But if it makes more sense than to go within the zoning ordinances, we can sure take a look. I would say, I think we contemplated just as a separate county ordinance that addresses fire marshal.
Yeah, then, yeah, if we just gotta run it through the planning and zoning, I gotta notice it, we can't get it on this month's meeting.
You can't.
No, okay. Well, I'll do it.
That Drew, he's not on mic.
Yeah, I won't be able to get it onto the planning and zoning agenda for this month, but I can get it on for next month and then get it to you guys. Was it 2 weeks? Oh, no, 3 weeks after that. So sometime in December, we should have it adopted. It just, unless we have a special.
The speed of government.
Well,
Yes.
one question is whether it's a planning and zoning ordinance or a law enforcement ordinance. So, or an enforcement ordinance. So it public safety. I mean, to me, it fits more in public safety than it does in zoning.
Yeah, do we have to run it? Do we have to run it through the planning and zoning? I don't,
And not as a public safety ordinance.
I don't know.
That's a question for you.
could be
Oh,
right.
I don't
Yeah.
think so, but we,
I can't
because
argue
there's
with
no
you 'cause I don't
zoning
know.
part of this.
Okay.
I mean,
I hear what you're saying.
yeah,
We just make that a resolution?
I think it needs to be an ordinance.
So like the speed ordinances that we have.
I don't think those are planning and zoning. I think they're just.
So they just need to go through the
They're-
commissioners.
They're public safety.
So it starts out here, whereas pursuant to 34-31-1, the Board of County Commissioners may, in their discretion, cooperate with governing bodies of municipal corporations, et cetera, for fire protection to safeguard the range, farm, and forest lands within the respective counties, prevention of fire nuisances. So that's what we're looking at. And then pursuant to 718A5, the Board of County Commissioners may by ordinance incorporate and adopt comprehensive regulations or code promulgation approved and published, recognized, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I think this is a separate ordinance, because then what we do here, and we went through this in much more detail last time, so I'm just gonna trust that we got it knocked out last go round. But I mean, that fire code book is massive. And so every time they update things, then do we stay current? So we went through and said, I mean, there are aspects of that we don't want to get in the business of or be involved with. But then we say under section 1B, Clay County adopts the following provisions of the 2018 International Fire Code, and any sections not specifically referenced are not adopted. General section, right of entry, fire investigations, authority at fires and other emergencies, inspections. So I mean, that's where we get into that aspect of things. Unsafe buildings, also a component of that, and vacant premises. And then section 2 is establishment of the fire marshal. And section 3 is appointment of the fire marshal for Clay County. So like then, if Fire Marshal Taggart were no longer serving as Vermillion's fire marshal, you know, if he got a different job somewhere, then we would need to go in and just update section 3 of our ordinance with whoever we would appoint for that. So the rest of it would stay in place, but then we would amend rather than,
Is his name listed?
yes.
So can you just put current local fire marshal. Current local or state fire marshal, because he's getting his authority from the state fire marshal. That way-
Yeah, I
that
mean,
way
I'd
we
want
know-
to touch base with him about that.
And
Just,
Drew can do that, right? It's ordinance, it's your job.
Yeah, we could end up
We threw the
dancing
bait.
around it a little bit by going with the state fire marshal or local representative, which is what Matt is at this point,
Is he a representative or a designee?
Or what?
designee.
Designee? I mean, is he designated by, I mean, where does he get his authority
From
from?
the state fire marshal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he, or designee, so he could be
Yeah, I think that's a
designated by
good
the
idea.
state fire marshal.
I would put an or between the two, I think.
I would like to write it so his name's not in there, so it just,
Correct.
it just flows to.
Agreed.
whoever the
Yeah,
next
we'd want to
person
get
is.
rid of that.
Yep.
And this is a hybrid, really. It's a hybrid zoning situation and fire safety and nuisance ordinance. So it doesn't really fit neatly in either spot. From what I remember and what we've read so far.
let me go find this in wherever I saved it, and I will email it out to you all. True, I'll loop you in, and and hopefully I have it. I think I probably have an email address for Matt as well, and I'll loop him in, so we're all on the same page as to what we're reviewing, and then any tweaks, modifications, or changes. So then when we have the draft of whatever we want in a good enough spot that we're ready to publish that, get notice given for an adoption of an ordinance, so you can go that route.
Okay.
So,
So it doesn't go through planning and zoning, it'll just go to Carrie to set the dates.
I
for
mean,
publication.
yeah, because under, so chapter 7 deals with counties, and 7:18A is ordinances and resolutions. And then it just goes through the ordinances and resolutions that you guys are going to enact, I think, separate and apart from planning and zoning. And so that, reading, signing, filing, and publication required, the title of all ordinances shall be read twice, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, that's where your general authority for enacting ordinances are separate and apart from planning and zoning. And then under that 3431.1 deals specifically with county agreements with other agencies for fire protection or purchase of equipment. The Board of Commissioners of the counties of the state may in their discretion cooperate with governing bodies, organized townships, or municipal corporations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Nonprofit fire protection corporations, and so on and so forth. For the contracting parties been provided. So I think that's where that comes in the prevention of fire nuisance thereon. So I do see this as probably a different, my first thought is, but that is something I've written down for myself to take a look at, just to make sure we're headed in the right direction.
Anything else for this? Sounds good. Moving on, Drew with medical cannabis cultivation. Who wants to start?
I got approached by John Peterson here after we finished our zoning ordinance. I was approached by John Peterson to get put on the agenda. We have finished our medical marijuana license ordinance. It's gonna need some changes. There's gonna be another set of changes that are gonna have to come probably end of October. The state's gonna put out another set of rules. We had already kind of decided on grow operations, but Mr. Peterson here would like us to revisit that. So take it away.
Yeah, thanks, guys. South Dakota law 3420 allows you guys, or sets up the medical cannabis law. Allowed you guys to set up ordinance 2021-05. Section 4. We are asking for the addition of one cannabis cultivation license to be included in section 4A, which currently allows for one dispensary license and one manufacturing license, but no cultivation license. It says right in there, numerical limits for each class of cannabis establishment may be altered at any time by a resolution of the county commission. I guess, yeah, we're looking to put up essentially a brand new facility and employ a few people and grow what we can, if allowed, I guess. You know, we got a site 2 miles west of Wakanda, right on the blacktop, good internet access. Easy for security, lighting reasons. I guess. Do you guys have any questions for us on it, I guess?
Are you thinking about putting up a greenhouse then?
Not a clear greenhouse, but this would be a physical, I guess I'm thinking more of a machine shed style
Okay.
structure with all enclosed, no external lights.
So the lights will all be inside the.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
That's about.
Yeah,
where you
from
live,
what,
isn't it?
well, I guess from my experience, we were one of the 3 farmers in the state that grew CBD hemp this year. And my experience from growing that outside is that it would not work on the marijuana end. You would get near cross pollinate unless you can get everybody to remove every wild hemp plant within about a 10 or 15 mile.
Good luck with that.
If you guys want to set up a commission to do that, a subcommittee to do that.
So that's the problem with that, with the hemp.
And from what I've talked to from the state people, there was, anything medical was gonna have to be indoors 100% no matter what.
Okay.
So, and that's our plan anyway. Just everything's moving pretty quick, so
Is that where you live, right?
yes, correct, right? The
So it'd be
proposed
right at
spot.
your home place. yeah.
Yep, just down the road from it.
I think there's a map in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I've got it in section
Oh.
29 if you're
Right.
interested at all.
Flip back one page here.
All right then.
So. you know, ordinance, we put it in private commercial property, right? How's that gonna work? We can really zone that, if that were to happen.
Who's talking?
Oh, sorry, Phyllis.
Your mic seems to go in and out more than you do. I mean,
It was
Mine
off
never-
right now.
well, even when you're talking, I'm wondering if it should be checked because it will be just fine and then all of a sudden you haven't moved, but your voice goes away.
We'll have to get somebody to look at that. But I was just asking, where John lives is agriculture and our ordinance states that it has to be on a commercial property. So I was just asking how that would work to get it rezoned.
If the changes, if we adopt the comprehensive plan as we've got it written up, commercial would be allowed there.
Okay.
And then we'd have to amend the marijuana ordinance that we're talking about tonight to include that as well.
And, you know, it actually makes some sense to allow growing and maybe only growing in agricultural zones. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to restrict growing to commercial zones. So I think when we passed that ordinance, I think the majority were thinking that we would not allow growing. But once we know that there are people who want to grow, you know, it just doesn't make any sense to not, you know, the price of land, you know, varies by whether it's commercial or agricultural. And it's just going to be a lot more sensible and affordable. You know, if we are going to have growing, and I think we should have growing, you know, to have it on, you know, to permit it as of right on commercial, I'm sorry, agricultural property. Yeah.
The only problem with that is the way the state has it designated, they don't consider it an ag product. Whether that's.
Right.
Medical
It's
product
medical,
Right.
so
right
it's-
now.
Yeah.
it's
No,
not-
I
It can't
understand.
be on the, it can't be an ag district if it's not an ag product.
Hmm.
It falls under the Department of Health and not the Department of Ag,
Right.
so that makes it, so since it doesn't fall under the Department of Ag, it's not an ag product.
Yeah. So
Whether
Alexis,
that's right or wrong, I mean, it's.
yeah, does that matter? In other words, can we allow this product to be grown on agricultural land, or is that? Does it have to be commercial land for a grow house?
Well, I think it depends a lot on what the ordinances are that apply to commercial properties versus agricultural properties. If we allow these on ag properties, we may have to really rewrite our ag zoning ordinances, where it fit a lot more automatically over in the commercial. I'd lean heavily on Drew to answer that.
I don't have my documents with me to answer that question.
Okay.
Because I guess we will, I mean, eventually, I believe every person that has a card can grow their own at home,
Mhm.
but it'd just be a matter of us turning around and selling that to dispensaries is where I think we would need our commercial license or commercial zoning, where we would need that, but yeah, I guess we're just here to ask some questions.
Sure. Yeah.
Good questions.
But as far as I know, I guess, would you guys just have to change that from a 0 to a 1 for the
I believe.
cultivation? Would you have, is there anything in there that says you can only have 2 licenses, or can you increase that as needed?
We don't know yet.
Based on, okay. Have you had any other inquiries into any of this?
Not in the county, joint jurisdiction. Yes.
That's so sharing with Vermillion?
Yeah.
Correct, okay. So there's one medical dispensary license that's still out in the open. Has anybody inquired about that
Mm-mm.
to you guys? Could a municipality
So,
technically run that if the town of Wakanda decided that
yes, so they have to allow one.
they could?
Irene has to allow one. The county has to allow one.
Okay.
Joint jurisdiction has to allow one.
County and joint jurisdiction, just one license, it's just joint jurisdiction for zoning only, not.
Microphone, Drew.
No, joint jurisdiction only counts for zoning, not for like liquor licenses or medical marijuana.
Yeah.
That was our assumption early on in CCOG as well. We circled around with the city on that for a while. That was,
Because it's each jurisdiction.
city doesn't feel that way.
It doesn't matter what they feel.
Yes, yeah, to them it does.
Yeah, so, but Wakanda would be required to allow one license.
Okay.
We've moved forward with after talking with the city, to just have the licensing for county cover both regular county zoning jurisdiction and joint jurisdiction.
So we don't have to allow one in the joint jurisdiction and one in the county?
Correct. Now, that's how the city decided to feel, and that was what they wanted to do, so.
I don't know if that will stand up in court.
So getting back to John's deal here. So if we rewrite that, allowing one grower, and we still haven't answered the question if we're gonna change it from agriculture to commercial.
It's gonna have to be commercial right now,
Yeah,
because it doesn't fall under the Department of Ag, so it's not considered agriculture.
so we'd have to plot that piece off.
Get that done.
Mhm. Yeah, that's not that difficult.
No, it's just another step and
Right.
more money.
But if that's what it takes to do, then so be it.
Right.
We'll follow.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Obviously, follow the steps.
Right.
Yeah, I guess whatever we could do to make this process easier for the next person down the line.
And that property is okay to go commercial, so we don't
I
have a
guess I
problem
don't
there.
know if there's any prerequisites you would have to meet. for
Yeah.
that, but-
Yeah,
Drew
Drew is
Baxter's-
shaking his head.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
we're
it can be
fine.
commercial.
If we get the comprehensive plan through, we can do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in that case, I make a motion that we rewrite this to add one grower to it. With the understanding that they need to plot the piece to commercial from agriculture.
I'll second that.
I say that right? Is
Is that what,
that what we gotta do?
No.
I wouldn't jump.
Well, I
But
think,
I have a motion in a second.
no,
Yeah.
but what I think what Mike's getting at is that if by resolution, we can create
of buildings.
one grower, and then John can go through the process.
I don't, we gotta amend the license first, which is great because it needs some
Right.
tweaking anyway. I can start that process at the end of October when I get those state rules and then come to you guys with that amended license.
But we want to leave it commercial, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So the ordinance, as we passed it, says that we can by resolution add facilities
Like, yeah. number of
like a
licenses.
grower. So why can't we just by resolution at the next meeting add a one grower?
It's gonna be planning and zoning, doesn't it?
No,
No,
license
no,
doesn't.
no, that's not the way the ordinance works, saying that just we can by resolution add a grower. So maybe all we need is a resolution. And then I think after that, it's up to John to.
Then it'd be up to us to follow all the
Mhm.
commercial zoning
So
rules to get.
if you want to amend your motion to just,
Can we hold on that?
Sure.
Until I check a couple things till the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
sure,
let's do
next
that.
meeting. So you're willing to come to the next meeting?
Oh, yeah, I know the way here.
I'll withdraw my
That's
motion.
not on
then.
the agenda either, so I'd hate to.
I'll withdraw my motion to let it table.
So
till
what would that be,
next-
the
next meeting.
last month?
Agreed.
Last
Right.
Tuesday?
Last Tuesday,
Okay. Is that the busy one usually?
not necessarily.
Okay.
Put you at the top of the list.
Yeah. You
First
might
time
not
for
have,
everything then, huh?
you might not have to wait through all this other stuff.
Well, that's fine.
Anything else? on
I
this?
withdrew my motion. Yep. Okay.
Drew, do you have anything else? John, you good?
Yeah, as far as, so I mean, going forward here, we're waiting for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, keep learning as you go, I guess.
Well, it's
You know, in
every day we
between.
learn something new. It's-
I know you're the kind of guy that's gonna keep learning as we go. So.
I have a question for you, John. How many acres of the hemp did you plant?
We did 5 acres. Actually, the state had a minimum of 5 acres of CBD hemp this spring.
Okay.
And they sentimented it to half an acre. It's 5 acres is a lot. It's a big field. We did 5 acres of that and then 40 acres of seed and fiber hemp also.
But you had trouble with cross pollination.
Had trouble on the CBD hemp end of it. There was a lot of seeds that got out there from just pollen in the air.
Yeah,
And I'm
it's-
talking to some people that know a lot more about this than I do, said, yeah, you'd have to go probably 10 to 15 miles out and pull every wild hemp plant.
Right, yeah, because it's like an aerosol. It,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
such a
pollen
fine-
is
I think they
just
found it up
incredibly
to
fine.
Hundreds of miles away if it gets high enough in the atmosphere and can travel.
Is
So,
Once it comes to actually having a facility, we'll have to have people, change clothes and stuff just to keep them from bringing pollen into the building itself. Like,
Speak into the mic.
secure.
pretty crazy. I'm sorry, did you not hear me?
There's something about clothing.
Oh, I was just telling them about how the pollen could even get into our building if we don't have our employees change into their uniforms to, prevent from contamination within the building.
so we're gonna have to protect our hemp just as rigorously we do as our hogs.
Our pigs.
Correct.
So I know you've got experience in that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
so.
So this will be a shower in, shower out.
Not quite, not quite.
Oh, really?
No, I think as far as putting coveralls on, would be all we need.
Hair cover, that sort of,
Yeah.
you'll
I mean,
carry it,
just
you'll
watching
carry it on
videos
your hair.
online of other grow facilities, that's kind of what they have is hair nets and smocks almost.
Right.
So did you find a place to sell your hemp?
Well, yes, we've found some extractors and we make some tinctures and gummies and pet products and skincare and I mean, the sky's the limit. Every time you click on online to one of these vendors. They have new products that they can make.
Labor intense.
To
When
a
you-
point, there's some people that make it themselves that have a lot more time on their.
No, but I mean, the.
What you did.
Oh,
What you did.
yes and no. I mean, this first year, yes, we learned a lot this first year, so next year might not be as labor intense.
How'd the combine like it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
Well, I
question.
spent all of Labor Day afternoon in the back of the combine pulling out. I was in there for about 7 hours unplugging it. So it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wraps really well.
I see why they make rope out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good stuff.
Wow.
Do you,
But after that, it was smooth sailing after that.
yeah, and yours is a flatbed machine. It's not a rotary, is it? Or
No, it was a
it was a
rotary.
rotary? Oh, man.
Yep,
So what kind of head do you use then?
just a regular bean head. Just
Bean head, yeah.
It wasn't a draper head, it was an auger type. Just lifted it up as high as it go and,
Took it straight.
yep. And even some of those plants.
I got busy. I wanted to watch. but-
So did I would like to
got
see that.
videos. We'll put some videos.
No, I just wanted to
together.
watch how fast it plugged up.
Oh.
Because I knew how green that stuff was when you started.
Oh, yeah, no, normally you take the top 1.5 feet or so, kind of like a wheat harvest, go through and just clip the tops. In the first 10 feet, I'd say we went down a little too far and got a big slug in there and then it just compounded after that.
So what did you come back and mow it again then?
Yeah, we had somebody come through with a
When
cutter and windrow it, and then actually he's supposed to be out there today baling it, so. But I think that part of the hemp is really gonna take off in our area, I think, the seed and fiber. It's fairly easy to grow with existing machinery, and
Weed control.
it takes care of itself, it grows
So
fast
it's
enough,
not
that
any
it
trouble.
chokes out all the weeds.
Yeah. Shades the ground.
Weeds gotta fight for their life to make.
Well,
it,
that'd be a
you know.
pleasure. Might see that once.
No, the farming part, it's looked like it's pretty fascinating to me.
It
From
was,
what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I would like to
Well,
see
don't
them
have it in
combine.
front of me, There's about 104 days from planting to harvest.
Yeah.
And it was fun to watch grow too. Brought my kids out there once a week and we took a picture every week. And there was about a 3-week stretch where we went from about waist high to.
That early
2
heat
feet
this year
above the
probably
ground.
really helped it.
Yeah, and we got a nice rain on it right after we planted it.
Yeah.
But once we planted it, it was kind of hands off until harvest.
Yeah, June was good for that crop, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, about here growing out there, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a lot of water then.
No, and we had bright green hemp field and the brown cornfield, the brown bean field right next to it.
It's a weed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. I agree with that.
Yeah, they could cross that with corn or soybeans somehow.
We never would get a combine.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's been very
It
fun
looked pretty
to
though.
learn about, and I really think it's gonna take off in our area. I
Good.
think if a lot of people have half as much fun learning about it as I did this year. but
Not another beets and turnips or anything like that.
No,
Buckwheat.
Yeah, yeah.
Drew, did you have? Much, okay.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think we've gone astray a bit, but
Yeah.
It
well, I
was well
was
worth
just
it.
Curious.
well worth it.
There's a lot of things we could discuss on this yet.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys.
Fascinating.
Lauren.
Do you guys have anything in a packet or do I need to hand these?
I don't think we have that fancy bill there.
you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Okay, I'm back today about the bids for the termite damage at the extension office. When I was here last week, I brought you the same 3 bids, and then you guys had asked me to contact all 3 of them again and ask them to give a kind of a more itemized, more like you see on the AMS, which is this stapled packet. So I called them back. Keith Burkhart did give me more of an itemized list. You can see his is behind his original bid there. I went through and totaled it up and it totals the same amount as his original bid. It's just more itemized out like you guys asked for. And then when I called Tom Taggart, maybe Carrie remembers more information about this one. I don't know. He brought this bid directly down to you. And so I didn't get a chance to talk to him about that one. When I called him back on last Tuesday, he kind of made it seem like maybe he didn't come out and say like, I want to take back my bid, but he didn't seem like he was super interested in it anymore either. And so he told me he was going to bring another bid and come down to the courthouse here and talk to Carrie and then I guess maybe Nicole when I called down here and found out that Carrie was out for the week. But when I talked to Nicole on Friday, she said that he had never done that. So I don't, if that means he's not interested anymore, that's kind of what I'm taking it as, but I'm also, getting kind of tired of chasing around all of these people and trying to, you know what I mean? So Tom was one of the first ones that I had gotten back in July, and then I had to make him wait this whole time because I couldn't find somebody else to come give another bid so that you guys would have more than one to look at. So maybe he did just fill up his schedule.
Well, it looks like the Burkhart bid is the lower one, and it seems to include, does it include everything that you're looking for? I mean, it seems really comparable to the AMS bid.
Yeah, I think so. The main stuff is gonna be the demolition, the framing, the sheetrock, and then reinstalling the ceiling grid, the baseboard, the casings, paint. On both of the bids, I know that both of them told me that the electric is kind of on there just in case. They don't know for sure what they're gonna find when they start opening up the walls, and if that means they're gonna have to move around some outlets or electrical to get done what they need to do.
Phyllis, the county has to pay to use the landfill, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
I think that's what the demolition
yeah, I was
fee
just
was for.
wondering if
Yeah.
there was anything that we would
Yep.
have.
Yeah, I mean, the really big difference seems to be in the electrical.
Yeah, and neither Keith or AMS, both electrical would be a subcontract job for them. So it's not,
It's wildly different.
yeah.
Phyllis, did you have something?
Only in that I'm not sure how they phrase the waste removal, but often the contractor is contracting for a roll-off. And then
Yep.
that company pays the landfill.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, the way this is structured, I think that's what it's gonna work.
Yep.
And so what's your recommendation?
Either one. I think when Keith has came to give his bid and then AMS as well, both of them looked around at everything, asked questions, so.
I can't believe that one's got $6,000 for electrical, the other one's got 700. Yeah, that's quite a stretch.
Well, AMS did say that that was a guesstimate. They had no idea.
Yeah.
But it'd be hard to see how they could spend that much money on
A few outlets.
yeah, it's new outlets and new wiring within the wall. Once you get the sheetrock off, that's pretty easy, fast and easy.
what are the bids at this point?
Electrical is $6,000 from AMS and $700. Is that right? Where am I?
That's just the electrical. What's the total? Realize I don't have one in front of me.
Total is Burkhart is $12,410 and AMS is $18,523.
Thank you.
And Tom Taggart's is
3,500.
$3,500,
Right,
but it doesn't include any electrical or painting.
right.
So I'd like to motion that we accept Keith Burkhart's bid.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Anything else, Lauren?
Not today. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Everybody
thanks
gets-
for all your time.
Did everybody get to see the vouchers?
Mhm.
Yes.
Move to approve the vouchers.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. The Lewis and Clark Regional Water System letter. Did everybody received that, didn't they?
I couldn't find it anywhere. What,
Oh,
That
It
came
it wasn't in the
separate.
packet, but I sent it out, I don't know, a week or two ago.
yeah.
Yeah, and it, you know, I mean, basically what they're asking us to do, Phyllis, is to give them some of our COVID money
Oh,
for their
right.
project.
I did
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Just a while ago. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
If we have any spare, is kind of the way
Yeah.
it was
But-
worded, I think.
Yeah, and I think we might want to put on the agenda for the future, how, you know, where we see ourselves spending that money, because we do need a plan for the money. We don't, you know, we don't want to be caught short and give any of that money back. You know, it's very, very restricted, but it would make some sense to look at, you know, what kinds of projects we might use it for. On the other hand, we may use most of it for this HVAC. So where are we on the HVAC?
Still waiting for the engineers.
Can we,
I believe an engineer came through while I was gone and took a look, and I think it might have been the electrical one. I just haven't had time this morning to follow up on that.
yeah, so, you know, I'm really interested in seeing what that bid is and how much we're able to do with that, because if we're able to use that for partially upgrading electricity, for example, water, that would be really nice.
Can't use it for electrical,
None? Not even if it's,
maybe on the ventilation part, yes.
Yeah, on the
But as
ventilation
regular-
part.
As far as regular
Right.
electrical, no.
right. But it could be that the ventilation part requires like an upgrade of the system. I mean, you know, I know that happens,
Right, but
So-
it'll only cover the portion that is.
right? For the
required
ventilator.
the Ventilation system.
Yeah, you
Mm.
can include the electrical to drive the fan motors and controls and all that good stuff.
Mm.
If there's a light that's put above the control center, that's not covered.
Yeah, so we can't really do any planning until we know what the HVAC is going to cost. I don't know if there's a way of getting them to speed it up a little bit. They're probably busy because everybody's doing the same thing.
I'll get a hold of them.
You don't mind me interrupting? I escorted that electrical engineer around the other day. It seemed to me like he was working on a lot more than HVAC in his mind. He was asking if we wanted to replace our video camera, security camera system. And he was looking for routes top to bottom for electrical. Now that might have been for the HVAC, but he did ask about the video cameras, and I told him I didn't think that that's what we're looking at. And after our discussion about plumbing in the jail last week, I reached out to find out the timeline for this to decide if they were looking at using the jail for HVAC mechanical. And because I didn't see the point in replacing or repairing those plumbing units. And they don't know that at this point. So I reached out to JLG about that. They were going to talk to engineers, and I haven't heard back yet, but I did ask.
Great, thanks.
Does anybody have anything else? So that is the end of the agenda unless we have executive session. Nope, okay.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you.
The recording off yet or?